All right, folks, welcome back to yet another episode of Fresh Juice, an indie game podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tommy Fresh, and you are on the other end of this podcast. Who is it? It is
me. I'm on the other end. Matty Juice. What's going on, everybody? How are you? I'm gonna fix my camera there a second. There we go. Welcome. It's good to be here, Tom. Talking about indie games once again every week, and real excited about this week's game because we've been waiting quite a while, haven't we, for this one?
We really have. And sorry to the folks at home. I almost went into the intro of my other podcast, which is what it's been a long weekend. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But very excited for today. This is something that we've been looking forward to. We played the demo a while back. Goons, Legends, and Mayhem. They managed to get both Legends and Mayhem in one game. That's pretty incredible. And we are going to have a blast talking about it. We're also going to get into the Triple I Showcase, or the initiative, or whatever they call it, that happened last week. It was a lot of fun. We watched in the Fresh Juice Discord, which you all should be in. Check it out. It's in the show notes, folks. But there were a lot of cool announcements in that showcase. But before we get all to that, what's going on with you, Matty? What's new?
Yeah, nothing too crazy. I've been doing a lot of stuff on my own YouTube, playing a lot of Once Human lately, which is a pretty cool survival MMO. I've talked about it on the show before. I'm playing a good amount of that. Let's see, what else? What did I do over the weekend? I had some breakfast at my parents' house, which was cool. My in-laws got a cat this weekend.
Nice.
Pretty hype. A cat named Mama. Shout out to Mama.
Shout out Mama.
And then I also went golfing, which is I think the first time this year I've been golfing. So it was a good time. Weather held up. It was raining a bit on the way there. And then as soon as our tee time started, it stopped. But walked 18 holes. Was nice. And pretty short course, though. A lot of par threes. And it was a good time. But what about you, Tommy? How was everything with your tiring weekend?
Oh, it was a long one. I also like that you opened with, I had breakfast, and then it was like, oh, good for you, man. I mean, they say it's the most important meal of the day.
I don't believe them.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the jury's out on that one. Because they say that, and then I see one TikTok where some jacked guy is like, you don't ever have to have breakfast ever.
Yeah.
If you want to look like me, and I'm like, oh, who do I believe? The guy who's jacked, or some jerk who said you got to eat breakfast? I don't know, but anyway, I digress. But I worked a beer festival this weekend, Atlantic City Beer Fest. It is one hell of a time. It is something that used to be a lot bigger. The beer fest scene is not what it was, right? And even though there were some good bands, some popular bands, because it's the beer and music festival, it felt like the attendance wasn't that great, to be honest. On Friday night, a band called Hot Mulligan played, which apparently is a pretty popular pop punk band. And then Saves the Day, I've never heard of them actually. They played the Saturday session. That session was busy, but I don't know if it was busy for them. It was just busy for people who wanted the day drink. And then I felt like Goldfinger would have been the biggest one, as we've talked about. I mean, Tony Hawk Pro Skater. That's everybody that day was I don't know Goldfinger, but I played Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and we're yeah, that's true, So
yeah, and
it was kind of dead then too. So it was interesting. Me and my boss worked it, and we had one of our kind of friends helped out, and boy, oh boy, this fella got very inebriated pretty early because he was hitting getting high on his own supply, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the second session, he started to get a little chippy with some of the customers, and then was I don't know if anybody knows the streamer Sketch. The guy goes, "What's up, brother?
What's up, brother?
Yeah, Tuesday. Special teams, special players." He loves that. He's in his 40s. He loves that. And just started saying it to everybody. It was funny at first. And then it just kept happening, and it happened into the night, and we closed up, and then we go to a bar to have dinner, and he's saying it to people at the bar, and then he's getting chippy with the bartender, making fun of his haircut, and the bartender's like, I'm going to cut you off, and me and my boss are like, you probably should. This guy is crazy. And I'm like, I don't know this guy that well. So it was very tiring. Like I got probably a little banged up Friday night, but like Saturday I was just like, I got to deal with this guy, and it's like 12 hours of working in a row and being on your feet and stuff like that and talking to people and stuff like that. So my social battery was pretty drained, but of course I woke up early on Sunday to drive over 2 hours to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania to play a Flesh and Blood tournament, which is the game I talk about in my other podcast, Flesh and Blood. Check it out. And I went 5-0. I went 5-0 in Swiss rounds. I was getting there, man. I don't know. Things were going my way, and then they stopped going my way when I got to top 8, and I went into my worst matchup and lost pretty handedly. So, went from first seed to dead pretty quick, but it was fun. It's the first time I ever went like first seed in a tournament, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Went home, played some Goons, and then passed out. And now we're here. I woke up 2 minutes ago. I did do some stuff today, but that was my weekend. It was busy.
Nice.
Busy.
Yeah.
And now,
is this the first Flesh and Blood tournament that you've had since you played at PAX in that tournament?
Yes, it was. I think
so. You went 9-0. You had a stretch where you were 9-0.
Yeah. Actually, no. I played one. I played one other one where I went 3-1.
Okay.
So lately I am like, what's the numbers on that? 12-1 in the game. Well, I guess I lost in top 8, so 12-2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still, take that.
We're just. It's actually funny. Like I had some pro players reach out for my deck list, and I was like, "Hey, whoa, guys!
Whoa, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. This is randomly generated. I don't know what's going on."
Yeah, I don't know how this deck came to be. But anyway, I digress. It is time to talk about the indie games, and we had a big week for indie games in terms of the III initiative. But before that, you mentioned. Well, first you mentioned, the Fresh Juice Discord is the best place to be in the world. #1 news ever. People are piling in, and it's crazy. Oh, that's one other thing I wanted to talk about. Someone who just joined the Fresh Juice Discord, William Knuckles, who has his own Flesh and Blood channel, joined the Fresh Juice Discord. If you're listening, William, love you. He asked me to do some voiceover work for whatever video he has coming out, and I was like, yeah, sure, that'd be awesome, and sends me a huge monologue from Frankenstein, which is like, oh, this should be cool. I like Frankenstein. And then I was like, some of these sentences are very hard. It was like, thou, the oest, thee, and stuff like that. And I was like, holy smokes. So I had to rehearse that one a little bit, but shout out William. You're the best. Table Pit. Check out that channel. But Dave the Diver, it seems to never escape the news. What is going on here?
Yes, so big news in the Dave the Diver world. So the director of Dave the Diver, and forgive me, I'm probably not going to pronounce the name correctly, Jaeho Hwang, has confirmed that he doesn't think the game is an indie game. So it's been settled, all right? Stop the debates, put down your picket fences. The director... not picket fences, picket signs. No one's looking up fences. Defense. Dave the Diver's director has officially come out and said it is not indie. So they will be taking away the Game Awards award that it was nominated for, which you don't get an award for nominations, but they're still taking it away.
They're taking away the nomination. Now, are they backfilling the nomination with another game?
Yes, they're going to be backfilling it with the Norp epilogue. No, they're not doing any of that stuff. But the point is, the whole story, it's not a long story. It's not indie. It's come out as not indie. And I think this is an important moment in the indie gaming space overall because there's been so much debate of whether something is indie or not that maybe it comes down to we just need to ask the developers, is it indie? And if they say it is, then it is probably. If they say it isn't, then it's not. So yeah, just that's really the whole story there is that we finally have an answer.
Yeah, it is interesting because it's awesome that the developer or the director was like, oh yeah, no, we're not indie, okay. But now, like I'm asking, like, do you backfill that nomination, right? Because that could have been an opportunity for another indie game to be like shown in a spotlight kind of situation, right? Instead, it was a spot that was taken by Dave the Diver. That's a debate that we can keep going down the rabbit hole. Eventually, we'll all lose our minds on the Dave the Diver nonsense. But it's a nice little button to put on the saga that we've been talking about for weeks now. But it kind of actually reminds me. I'm seeing now that Hades, is available on the phone.
Oh, okay.
But only for Netflix subscribers.
Is there more? I feel like every time I go, okay, you're like only for Netflix subscribers who live in
Brazil?
Montana.
No.
With the name Charles.
No. So yeah, I was like, it popped up as an ad for me on TikTok, and it was like, Hades is now on the phone only for Netflix subscribers. I was like, that's like out of left field. Now I know Netflix has been hurting, and rightfully so. Netflix kind of sucks these days. So maybe they're like, you know what? We will help facilitate getting some games onto iOS platforms and stuff like that. I don't think that makes Hades not indie anymore. Just kind of funny, like a big, like, what do you call it, partnership or something like that to see that kind of thing happen. But Hades on the phone is pretty cool. So just if anybody wants to steal Netflix password, you can probably play it on your phone.
Yeah, and shout out Hades devs. Get that bag, I'm sure Netflix paid a pretty penny for that. And I did hear that Netflix was doing like cloud gaming stuff. So do you know, is it streamed through the cloud, do you know? Or is it like you actually download it on your phone and like play it like natively on your phone? Do you know?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't do any research on this. It just reminded me that I saw the ad for it. I would assume that probably makes the most sense, right? Yeah. So
cool.
Neither here nor there. Hades is cool. That was a great game. You should all play it. I'll probably bring it up later for a listener question. But
I actually will be bringing it up later for a listener question, guaranteed. So we'll see what that question is. But yeah, what's up next, Tommy?
The III Initiative Showcase, whatever you want to call it, it was the big indie thing. We've been talking about it for a couple weeks now. It happened last Wednesday, a week ago, and there were some big reveals, right? And some, it ranged in reveals. I think there were some big reveals, and then there were also some like, hey, this is happening. Pretty cool that we can just show it to you like this. First of all, how did you feel it went? Like, did you enjoy the showcase?
I thought it was great, to be honest. Like, all I ever want from gaming showcases is just one game after another. All those trailers, no BS, no fluff. I don't need, Keanu Reeves coming out, like, saying something. Like, I just want the game trailers. I want the gameplay. So I thought it went really well. I think most of the games they showed, I put a list in our Discord of, like, games that we were both kind of interested in to some extent. I feel like most of them were ones that we were interested in, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I hope it's something that happens annually or even maybe like twice a year. Excuse me. Something like that would be really cool. Maybe like Q1, Q3 kind of thing. Maybe Q1's teasing games that are like going to be released in the summer. Q3's teasing games that'll be released in like the holiday season. Something like that could be cool. But yeah, overall, I thought it went really well. And there's definitely, I already have a bunch of games added to my wish list that I saw on there. But what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was just really neat, right? Like, it was just like a really fun thing to kind of just have something so focused on indie games. It's not, and this is the reality of indie games. Indie games covers like because it's independent and not like so focused on what the masses are going to want, you're going to see some pretty unique kind of genres. And there was a lot of genres that perhaps Maddie and I aren't particularly into, but it's cool to see. And even, something that we might be looking at to play on the show and hopefully kind of get through that barrier of never playing that genre. So very interesting. But I got to say, start off with a bang, right? The biggest reveal, I think it started with it, was Slay the Spire 2. Now, for those who don't know, well, why don't you? But Slay the Spire is huge. It's the biggest roguelike to probably ever exist, I think. It just tickles so many people in the right way. I guess that was a weird way to say it. Yeah, it does. But
keep going.
But guess what? The cool thing about Slay the Spire, and something that I was actually pretty resistant to playing because it wasn't really the art style I was into, even though everybody I know was like, you'd love it. It's like trading card games, but it's a roguelike. It's like this, it's like that. And I'm like, I don't know. It just kind of looks a little clunky to me. But then I actually have Apple Arcade on my iOS phone, which is like a gaming service. And they just put Slay the Spire on it. And I was like, well, I'll try it out. And then it was a lot like Balatro. There goes all my time, right?
Yeah.
Playing Slay the Spire. Now, the interesting thing about Slay the Spire, as opposed to Balatro, is I think that Slay the Spire has a cap, right? Unless they were going to add a bunch of new cards to the game or new heroes, because you choose a hero that has a different kind of ability every time you go on a run, They can't really change the game. There's always going to be the certain strategies, and some of them are pretty cool, and it's all procedurally generated and stuff like that. But I think that Slay the Spire 2 makes more sense than them updating the original Slay the Spire, right? Because I don't think they expected, first of all, the first Slay the Spire to be such a success. Now they can really tackle the second one to make it even better. Not to say that the first one sucked, but this one's going to be, I would hope, pretty insane. So very, very excited for that. I'm not sure if they gave us a date on that. They said early access in 2025. So I don't know, folks, this is your time to start playing Slay the Spire, because Slay the Spire 2 is probably going to be one of the biggest releases in 2025.
Yeah. And I have never played Slay the Spire, and maybe it's because I'm not I don't play a lot of deck builders, but you're hyping it up, and I think I should. I wonder. I don't have an iPhone, but I wonder if it is on Android. But
I think it should be on Android as well. It's on mobile.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll have to give it a whirl. But yeah, I know it's definitely one of those games that I just see mentioned all the freaking time ever since it came out. It's one of the best indies that you can find. And another game that I think it was announced right after Slay the Spire that I was really excited for, that looked cool, is Kill Knight. I don't know if you remember seeing Kill Knight.
Yes.
But this one it had almost what was that game that we had played? It was an indie game. It wasn't Bloodstained. It was something else with a big red sticky thing that would you could attach to. Whatever that was, it kind of reminded me of that in terms of the art style. A little bit, but Kill Knight looked pretty damn cool. It seems like it's a twin stick shooter that's obviously focused a lot on the gore aspect, but something I had never heard of before. A few of these games in the showcase I heard of. They were maybe teased at the Xbox showcase or previous showcases, but Kill Knight was something I had never heard of before that definitely piqued my interest, and hopefully it's something we can review on the show. But definitely recommend the listeners to go check it out on Steam. I think it's supposed to come out this year at some point, but it really does look fantastic. It seems like really fluid gameplay, almost I want to say it almost looks like Doom, but a twin stick shooter, kind of, which is really cool. So yeah, that was right after Slay the Spire. So just banger after banger. I was like, oh my god, it's starting out really well. But what did you think of Kill Knight?
I mean, that looks sweet. That had me hyped, you know, kind of like going from Slay the Spire 2 to that. And you're just like, well, okay, they're going to hit us with a bunch of bangers. You know, it was like awesome. And then we got like Darkest Dungeon 2 is getting a new game mode called Kingdoms. Now, that is another game I might bring up later, to be honest, as well. One I never really got into, but I mean, has a huge following, right? I mean, for an indie game to have a sequel is already pretty huge, right? So
Yeah.
it's going to be really interesting to see, you know, if that gives it like another bump in like some sales and stuff like that, or even just having people revisit it. Probably not something we would review because it's just a game mode. But the thing that, I mean, we both talked about it a lot, and I've mentioned it in many of my circles, that 33 Immortals from...
Dude, game of the show for me.
Yeah, from Thunder Lotus. So, for those of you who don't know, Thunder Lotus did a pretty popular, what do you call it? Metroidvania. I'm blanking on the name right now. Goddamn. But anyway, so they...
Spiritfarer.
What was that?
Spiritfarer?
They did Spiritfarer, but they also have a really popular Metroidvania, really beautiful art style.
Sundered.
Yes.
There
Sundered.
it is.
Yeah.
Boom.
Beautiful game, and this game is looking to be just right up there with those other two games. I think Spiritfarer got nominated for Indie Game of the Year the year it came out, if I remember correctly.
Got a lot of love, definitely. Yeah. Yep.
It's a game I played on the Switch, but 33 Immortals, you play with 33 friends. Well, 32 friends. You're one of the 33, but it looks to me like it's a big Hades kind of multiplayer roguelite. Just looks so sick. Awesome art style. What did you think about this one?
Yeah, this was like, it was one of those games where like you're watching the trailer, and I do remember the name being teased. I think it was at the Xbox showcase. It said that it was teased at, but I didn't really remember the gameplay. And then you're watching the trailer, you're like, all right, yeah, I'm getting like some Hades vibes from this. And then all of a sudden, you start to see like the player count, like the number of players just keep building and building and building. And you're like, oh my God, is this called 33 Immortals because it's a 33 player like dungeon crawler, essentially, roguelite? That it just looks awesome. And like, I know we were already talking about when we watched the trailer, we were like, this would be great to do with like the juice heads, you know, get as many people together, play some 33 Immortals. But honestly, like I'm always for games that are like me and a bunch of people get together and just take down like badass bosses and explore like really cool dungeons. Like I just love that sort of stuff. So this is like right up my alley, and definitely something that you know, I'm gonna be picking up. And they do have a beta as well. I know we both signed up for the beta. I think the beta runs let me see, from May 24th to June 2nd. So it's only about a week long. So make sure you go, you know, any of the listeners out there, if you do want to play and maybe, you know, play with us, because they're going to be testing the online play, you know, sign up for their beta on their website. 33immortals.com, maybe it is. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure if you Google it, you know.
If you go to Thunder Lotus and then go check out 33 Immortals, I think there's a link right there. So,
yeah. And yeah, it just, you know, it gives me like the MMO sort of vibes. I just really hope that like the gameplay itself isn't like easy, you know what I mean? Like where there's 33 people and it's just like you just take down stuff super quickly. But I'm really interested in this one. What are you thinking?
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't imagine it's going to be easy, right? Like, so it's kind of interesting, right? This has the makings of being the indie Helldivers in a way. Right, like where it's like, oh, we're all hopping in, we're going to, you know, do this huge dungeon, or I went in and I was with a bunch of other people I didn't know, but we bonded together because, you know, we had to take down this like kind of like mythological looking demon and stuff like that, which is gonna be so much fun. I'm super excited. Yeah, the beta should, hopefully we get in, because that would be really awesome to play. And it sounds like a full release is going to come later this year, not even like early access or anything like that, which is pretty dope. And I believe if you do sign up for the beta, you will get a exclusive skin, which is cool. We love skins. Let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a banger of a reveal. I mean, the gameplay looks so sick, so it should be like a lot of fun, And this is great because this is a great thing that they put it on the III initiative because it got a lot of eyes, right? Gets a lot of eyes because you need a lot of 3 eyes, 33 or 66
triple eye.
Yeah, 3. Oh, that makes sense. You get a lot of people looking at it. But this is a game for it to be successful. I think you're gonna want a lot of online players, and if it is addicting enough, like most roguelikes are, and to be able to have a different experience with different people every single time, that sounds like a lot of fun. So that was a banger, but interesting banger is the Prince of Persia reveal. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so this was like I believe it was kind of teased before, or maybe even leaked before the event. But the not the original developers of Dead Cells, because that was Motion Twin, but I guess the ones who kind of took it after Motion Twin, Evil Empire, is working on a Prince of Persia roguelike. And this is called the Rogue Prince of Persia. And honestly, like as we were watching the trailer, we were trying to figure out what it was. We were like, is this Prince of Persia? Like, what is this? And yeah, it ended up being Prince of Persia, and it actually looks pretty cool. I really like the art style. It almost has a similar art style to like 33 Immortals, where it's like that kind of like almost like an old school cartoon sort of art style. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested in it. Does this make Prince of Persia indie then? Technically, is that at the Triple I event? Again, that conversation's brought up of like, does it make it indie now? Because it's I don't think it's technically an indie franchise, but it is being made by indie developers, and it was shown at the showcase. So I don't know, but yeah, really interested in this. Another take on a roguelike. Obviously, we've been talking about that for a while on the show. That is the trend that's happening with a lot of games. 33 Immortals, I mean, Balatro, everything is a roguelike now, which I am all in favor for because I do think it, obviously increases the replayability. But yeah, I'm actually excited for the Rogue Prince of Persia, which it enters Steam Early Access on May 14th. So we're only about a month away from being able to check this out and see what the reviews are. But what about you, Tom? How you thinking?
Yeah, this is super cool. It is like weird. It is an indie, but like I guess it's more like it is a AAA IP, but is being developed by an independent, developer. So I think we'll give them this one, especially if it's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super excited to play this. I mean, the art style looked awesome, and I'm definitely going to be all in on it when it comes out. I don't know about early access, but I mean, it's like so tough to say. It's like early access, like should I play it? Should I wait? Do they want feedback? Do they not want feedback? So it's kind of a hard thing to say. It's something that we always deal with, but it's super exciting nonetheless, and it kind of shows maybe we can get more of this, right? Like use IPs that maybe the AAA developers don't really know what to do with and loan them out to some really good indie devs and see what happens, right? Like if this is a big success, I could see this happening with some other IPs that maybe have been like kind of shelved or something like that. Not that I think Prince of Persia just Gauntlet. Yeah, Gauntlet. No, but like I was thinking the exact same thing. But like it should be really interesting. And it's kind of funny, last week when we talked, we said it's like, what if we had like a Gauntlet roguelike? And then like 33 Immortals kind of seems like that, right? So but yeah, Rogue Prince of Persia seems pretty sweet too. Something else that caught my eye personally was Undermine 2, which I did play the first Undermine. Really, really fun little like adventure game that it's just beautiful art style, and it looks like we're getting a sequel, Undermine 2. So that should be cool. Excited to see what that's all about. It's one of those ones like it's not like multiplayer or anything like that. So it's just like when it comes out, I'm gonna play it, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. So super hyped for that. Anything else that caught your eye?
Really, I would say the other thing that really kind of surprised me that looked interesting was Streets of Rogue 2.
Oh
So
yeah.
I had never played Streets of Rogue before, but it seems I don't know. I was kind of getting like Secrets of Grindia vibes sort of from it, but like in a kind of GTA like world
Yeah.
instead of like a fantasy world. But yeah, I don't know. It just seemed like there was so much that you could do in Streets of Rogue 2. Just like so many different paths you could kind of take with your character that it just kind of interested me of like, I don't know. I like when games give you a ton of different options, kind of like a Stardew Valley sort of situation. But yeah, Streets of Rogue 2, I don't know much about it. I've never really played the first one or really heard of it, to be honest. But I'm interested in the second one. I've got it on my wish list, and we'll see how it is. But yeah, if any listeners out there have played the first one, would love to hear your thoughts in the Discord or comment on the YouTube video, whatever you want to do. Because I know it's got a lot of love, Streets of Rogue. After I looked it up after the show, I realized like how many people actually like it. So yeah, it seemed pretty interesting. What about you? Did you have any thoughts on this one?
But yeah, that one looked like a lot of fun. It looks wild. I mean, if it is really as sandboxy as they were pumping it up to be, it seems like it's going to be a no-brainer to play. I mean, that game looks
Yeah.
awesome. Another one that did catch my eye before we move on, though, is well, two things specifically. I want to shout out Wizard of Legend 2. I played the first Wizard of Legend. It looks like the second one's going to be like a total vibe change in graphics too. I really like the first Wizard of Legend, kind of like a dungeon crawler, multiplayer, like Gauntlet esque kind of game.
Mm.
This one, if it's as good as the first one, if not better, that should be really awesome to play. And then also, I really like the game The Last Spell, which is kind of like a roguelike, like Fire Emblem esque kind of game, and that's going to have a a DLC where they're adding dwarves. Well, it's called Dwarves of Runeberg. Just kind of funny. The dwarf tag on Steam
Yep.
is popular, so might as well get in on it. So
Hell yeah.
add dwarves to everything else, but that was the Triple I showcase, man. I don't know if there's anything else you want to mention, but it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, I really did enjoy it, and there's obviously other games that looked interesting, but just for like the sake of time, we can't go through every single one. But yeah, no, I'm really excited for the next one. I want to see kind of does it change? Do we get a little bit of fluff added? Does it become a longer showcase? Because I know a lot of people I saw on Twitter were like, man. I hope my game is added to the next showcase. Like how many indie devs are going to be interested now that they know it's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be something that we see every year and we're just used to, like the Summer Game Fest, or the Game Awards, just something that we just know comes every year now. So yeah, no, overall, I mean, great job to the devs there for setting that up, and yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even mind like a few ads thrown in just so that I know that this is going to be happening. As long
Yeah.
as like I don't need to deal with like all that fluff of like I said, like Keanu Reeves, like all that stuff where like people come out and like try to make jokes and all that sort of stuff. But if there's got to be an ad every now and then, sure, do it. Put it on there so you can pay for it. That's totally fine. But yeah, excited for the next one. But I think it's time to get down to business, Tommy.
We've been edging for too long. It's time to start gooning, folks. It is Goons, Legends, and Mayhem. And this is well, I guess you can call it almost like a Super Mario Strikers esque hockey game, right? It reminds me of the hockey that was on Mario Party 4 or 5, or forget which one, but with the added kind of power ups. Very, very Nintendo, very, very fun party game with some fun twists as well, including a story mode, which we really like. Now, I'll let you take the floor here on the gameplay. Let's get right into it, because we did talk about this demo, which was pretty close to release. So they were prepping to release the game when the demo was out.
Yeah. So, and also just for context, this is a $20 game. but it's 20% off until April 25th. So it's like $16 if you do decide to pick it up. But yeah, gameplay wise, I kind of think of it in like two different segments, right? There's kind of the multiplayer aspect of the game where you're able to play online, you're able to play local, similar to like what you're saying about kind of like a Mario Party sort of mini game. And then there's like the story aspect. There's plenty to talk about with the story, so we'll get to that after the gameplay. But there's a story aspect where basically you're think of like a Mario kind of level select, or even like Cuphead. I was even thinking where like you're kind of you have this world above the levels where you can kind of drive around. You're in a Zamboni, you're driving around, and there's a little hub area where you have a shop, where you have matchmaking. You got your little locker, so you can set like your own custom stuff there, whether it's your avatar or whatever it is. And then you also have the other levels throughout the world where you're going to fight different bosses. And the way that kind of the bosses work is that it's in a hockey arena. You kind of have half of the hockey arena open to you, and then the bosses all have their little quirks. Some of them throw kind of like barrels at you. Other ones you're having other enemies kind of just come and attack you while you're trying to fight the boss. Other ones you have to like set up a catapult to shoot at certain things so that you can make the boss vulnerable. But everything kind of boils down to the bosses. At least from what I've played, I've faced like maybe like 4 bosses so far in the game. They always have 3 hearts, so you're gonna have to use a power shot, which is basically when you just hold down your shot button, you kind of get into like a power shot or power slap, whatever they call it, where you can deal damage to the boss. So you have to do that 3 times. It's kind of your normal like rhythmic like 3 phases with a boss that you typically have with like other games. But as far as the gameplay goes, I really think it shines with the multiplayer aspect, with whether it's local or whether it's online. Not a lot of online matches going on, which is typical for like a an indie game of kind of this popularity. But there were a few that I could hop in and out of. But I really think that's where it shines, because you have not only is it obviously hockey, but you also have different characters with different abilities. So you've got Brazier, I guess is like the wizard. Is that his name? Brazier? No, it's not Brazier.
Yeah, it's spelled similar.
Whatever. Yeah, whatever. Not Brazier, but so you have different characters with different abilities. There's like each character basically has 2 different abilities, and they vary. There's like a kind of a clown, kind of like Twisted Metal looking character. That he's got an ability where he drops little pies down that are kind of like little landmines, and then he also has an ability where he brings out like a little cloth and he can like kind of glide across the map, which is kind of cool. Then you have other characters, like the wizard character, has like a fire spell that you can shoot at other players, and then he also has like a dash where you can catch up to other players, things like that. That just kind of helps spice up a little bit of the gameplay. But yeah, you have different in the multiplayer side of things. At least you have like you have 1v1s, 2v2s, everything up to 3v3s, and then the goalies are always AI. So it's similar to Mario Party in that way, where like you actually you don't have like a player that's controlling the goalie. You're just playing as the hockey player. I don't know a lot of hockey terminology. You're not the goalie, basically.
Yeah.
You're going around and hitting the puck and all that good stuff. So yeah, I really think the gameplay shines with the multiplayer. Like I said, especially like when you're playing with friends, it's just a blast. It's got that Mario Party feel where like you're not too concerned with winning. You're just really concerned with just having a good time, and it's one of those party games that I think is a lot of fun. But one thing that I do find a problem with like the gameplay overall is that you kind of are, and we'll talk about this a little bit later too. I have some more thoughts on it, but you're almost like, I felt like you were like forced to play the story in order to like unlock things for the multiplayer, which going into the game, I was thinking it would be like opposite, where maybe like the story would kind of take a second hand to the multiplayer, because I think that's where it shines the most. And this game was delayed a few times, and I always kind of wondered why it was delayed because obviously when we played it at PAX, I had a great time. We played the multiplayer and it felt pretty polished. I'm sure there were some issues with the multiplayer, but we played it a good amount of times, more than any other game I think that we've ever played at PAX. And it was a really great time. But I was always wondering why the game kept getting delayed, and I think it was because they put so much thought into the story aspect, which yeah, the story, we'll talk about that, like I said, in a little bit, but I just kind of thought overall with the gameplay, I just kept wanting to play the multiplayer. Like I didn't care too much about the story aspect of things. So just an FYI for anyone looking to get into it, you will have to do some basic story stuff in order to unlock certain things. Even to unlock new characters, you'll have to play through the story in order to do that. And I don't know, I kind of felt like that was a little odd for me, especially with like what I was thinking the game was going to be. But overall, I mean, I think the core gameplay is good, whether you're playing the story or you're playing multiplayer. I think the hockey aspect, like it feels fun. It feels like Mario Party. It just kind of, I wasn't expecting, I guess, the game to feel so segmented between multiplayer and story. I thought it would be a little bit more entwined, or maybe just more on the multiplayer side with like little sprinkles of story thrown in. But yeah, overall, I mean, I had a great time with the gameplay overall. I mean, it's very smooth and didn't really have like any major issues with like the core gameplay. But what about you, Tom? How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I was definitely feeling as well, but the first, and it's kind of hard to say, right? Like, because we played the demo, and very much the beginning of this game is the demo, right? So I had already played it, right? So, like, whatever, I understand. That's fine. I just gotta get through that beginning part where you're doing a little bit of a tutorial, et cetera, et cetera. But it's part of the campaign, but you gotta do it before you can do online matchmaking. But gameplay-wise, is super smooth, very, very fluid. You feel like the skating makes sense. There is a difficulty curve here, right, to really figure out what you're doing with the puck, but I think that's good. I think you can't just have it easy to do this, because then you go into a match and it's just a complete offensive like slaughter, right? Like it's just like it's like a shootout. It's like 10v10 or something, or 10-10. I don't know.
Yeah. I get you.
But 10v10 would be pretty insane. But no, 10-10. But so like I enjoy that aspect, and it definitely feels like they put a lot of work into what it means to be playing against people, right? And to be sitting down and having these these awesome matches with this really, really cool game with these really cool characters that have super unique abilities and play different and have different play styles. I think that's really the best part of this gameplay. Now, you mentioned that you have to do the campaign to unlock some stuff. Now, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, like, I only played some multiplayer, but like, I would have expected that you have the option a lot, like almost like Super Smash Bros. Or Astro Duel 2, a game that we talked about from PAX, where you unlock stuff either by doing the campaign stuff or the single player stuff, or you unlock it by just playing more matches, like Super Smash. Like that's just, it was always the alternate way they unlock characters, right? Like, Jigglypuff was like after 50 or something like that. But so I would have preferred that. I'm not sure if that's the case, but it's like that's a little bit harder to do when you're just doing online matches. Now that when you're doing couch matches and you and your buddies are playing a game, that's when you can really like just unlock the characters really quick. So not really sure if that was the case there. So you can't really speak to it because I focus a little bit more on the campaign. But the gameplay itself is very fun. I prefer playing against people, even if I'm not that good. I played some online games and I got smoked. I will be honest, but that is okay. I need to put more work into it. That's all that means. But I can't count. That's not the game's fault. It's my fault. I suck. But and people are quite good already. So it's
Yeah.
like you kind of sit there, you're playing against these people online. I'm getting like smoked. I'm like, am I playing against the devs? What's going on here? Because they're so good. It just came out, but yeah, but that's it. But like the story is, and we'll talk about the story right now. Like it's not bare bones. I shouldn't say bare bones. It's very simple. It is a simple. The evil mascot guy is taking over Zambonia, and you got to go on this little quest to kind of go fight bosses, like you said, that have like the three elves, and so like it's it's fine. It gives you some fun challenges to do. I don't think I'm like invested in the story. I'm not like, I gotta take down this guy. This guy's getting away with too much. Like,
Yeah.
it is. It is just enough to give you something to do by yourself in the game, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But if it wasn't so, it felt so necessary to do. I think I got to give it a couple notches down. But overall, though, it is what it is. There's cool like stuff that you can do. Like I enjoy playing with the other NPC, which I guess you could do co-op, right? If because I'm playing on my PC, so I wasn't really even looking that I could do co-op. But there's parts where you can
In
pass
story?
back. In story where you can pass back and forth from another character.
Yeah, you can, but I don't think you can actually. I think it's still single player
Oh,
for the
okay.
story. I think so, but I didn't test it. But just because when you like, if you think of like the way the menus are, like you just kind of like hop. Like the multiplayer doesn't have a separate option than the story. It's all like the same option on the menu. So like the only way to like match up with people, I think, is to do like the multiplayer matches rather than like the story stuff. At least I haven't tested it, but
Yeah.
but you would think, yeah, like there are some missions that you do where there's two players that you control. But and when you pass the puck back and forth between each other, that's when like the character switches. So you would think that you could do co-op, but yeah, I haven't tested that.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean that would be neat. I'm not sure. We are the only two people that we know or that are playing currently. We weren't able to play at the same time, so it's hard to say if we couldn't even really test it together. But that being said, I do think the story is enough to want me to keep playing, so I unlock this stuff. So if that's the goal, I think they achieved it. It's not super interesting. The boss fights are fun. Like I think the boss fights are probably the best part, and that's it. And then it's cool to kind of get your cosmetics and stuff like that too with the in-game currency. I think that's like a really nice add rather than making people pay for it. So
Yep.
that's where I'm at in the story. Where you at?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean I agree. I think it's enough for me to want to keep trying to unlock characters. Once I realized that's how you unlock characters, I was like, all right, I want to focus on the story now. And really like, the way the dialogue is essentially like you have like an image of, your character show up on the left and an image of whoever you're talking to show up on the right, and there's kind of this like text message chain that happens in between, right? And I kind of found myself like in the beginning, I was like, all right, I'll read through it because like some of the dialogue's pretty humorous, and like they're poking fun at the fact like they're very like self-aware
Mm-hmm.
of what's kind of going on and how ridiculous some of this stuff is that you're doing. But eventually, I kind of found myself just like skipping through the dialogue, to be honest, just because I was like, all right, I want to play hockey, like I
Mm-hmm.
want to fight the next boss. And even at a certain point, you're talking with a book actually, and the book I think even points out it's like, oh, is anyone still like reading this? Or it says something like that, and I was like, oh, that's pretty funny, because they've been talking for a while, or they're like, yeah, it's like this is the longest dialogue in the game. Is anyone still reading this? And then like your character's like, who is he talking to? So that was funny, But I think yeah, at the end of the day, like, yeah, the story it's pretty basic, and I just want to play hockey.
Mm.
So I would like if like the story elements were maybe a little bit more intertwined with like the actual matches. Like maybe after you defeat one heart on the boss. Like it goes to a cutscene of the boss saying something, right? I kind of felt like it was just like separated where all the dialogue was outside of the boss fight, and then when you got in the boss fight, you just kind of, you had to figure out what you had to do, and then after you beat the boss, then it went back to the dialogue outside of the fight. So maybe if it was a little bit more intertwined, that could be a little bit more interesting. But yeah, overall, I mean, I wasn't, I'm not hell bent on like figuring out the end of the story. I just want to
Yeah.
unlock the characters at the end of the day. I do think it was cool, like the world they built
Hmm.
for the story. Being able to drive around the Zamboni and like choose, the obviously the different levels, and like each level kind of has a little theme around it. Like you fight a king, so he's got like a castle around him. You fight like a clown sort of guy, I think, and he's at like an amusement park. And so it was kind of cool, like in that way. But yeah, overall, didn't care too much about like where the story was leading, and I think that's also why I was like, kind of bothered that I was like forced to play the story, because I
Hmm.
was like, well, if you're gonna force me to play the story to unlock stuff, like I hope it's good. And it's fine. I just want to get through it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I know I keep saying that, but I just want to get through it. So that, yeah, overall, that's kind of how I felt about the story.
Yeah, and you mentioned they did a good job of building the world, and I think they did a good job of building an IP. And I think the way they did that is by building this world and by designing these characters. So like the visuals here are actually
Yeah.
pretty nice, and like very distinguished. Oh, like it feels familiar in a way. Like you look at these different characters like Brazier and then all the other characters there. Like I'm stuck on Brazier, but
Yeah.
It's cool character design. The NPCs are just like perfect NPCs. They look like little minions. It's very fun, and I think that's a great thing that they're doing. And the reason this works as a hockey game though is the visuals, because it's so tight and fluid, and it shows you where you are, and it has these really cool effects when you use your power ups and stuff like that. So I think the visuals here are pretty on point for what this game is supposed to be, and it nails the vibe perfectly. And to be honest, it's like this is something that if it can catch on, and I hope it does, that like these characters can be something that people really like remember. Like they're very well designed. I think that they are awesome to look at, right? And they're just so distinct, each of them, and that is a great way to have a game like this, right? You need to have
Yeah.
memorable characters, like any kind of multiplayer game, because you want people to be to relate to the characters, the heroes, or whatever you're playing. I mean, look at League of Legends, right? People, you can talk about the community all you want, but like that game is such a success because they have these really cool character designs, and Goons is actually doing that as well. Not to say, not to put, I don't want to insult anybody. Goons saying that you guys are like League of Legends, because some people hate that game. I
Yeah.
think it's kind of fun, but I just don't listen to people when they tell me I'm horrible and I should kill myself. But that is all right. So, but yeah, I think the visuals they nailed it here. I really didn't see anything wrong. They're almost like there's a little bit of creepiness to them, which I think just a little
Mm.
smidge, and I think that's kind of works in their favor. Like almost like there's another human inside them. Like when they open their mouth, like their tongue looks a little weird. It looks like
Yeah.
maybe there's some eyes poking out.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe they're all mascots. I'm not sure. Maybe that was something that was mentioned in the story we skipped past.
Yeah.
It is perfectly cute, creepy, and memorable. So, uh,
Yeah.
what were your thoughts here?
Yeah, no, I think like the art was solid. Even everything from like the little animations that happen with like the penguins. There's like penguins that you see that they're up to their different antics, and Yeah, everything like art wise, it's like you said, it's like very cute. And I thought the animations were good overall. They got the point across. And honestly, like with a lot of indie games that we see, I do see a lot of games like lacking with like their animations. Like you can tell something is like something's off, or like it cut off a little bit too soon, or maybe it went on a little too long. But with this game, I thought like everything with the timing of their animations was fine. Like it was great. It kind of helped. Like I was interested when there was like a little cutscene, and I kind of wish that was there instead of like that text message dialogue. I kind
Mm-hmm.
of wish that there were more animations, and I know that's more work for the developers, and like it would have delayed the game further. But I would have liked that more. Maybe some like speaking like a few times when they're speaking with each other, it's like actually animated rather than like that text message sort of thing. One thing that I did find a little bit odd with the art, though, and maybe it's just something that like bothers me, is that when the characters would show up for the text message thing and it would just kind of show like a still frame of the
Oh
character,
yeah.
I kind of felt that they looked a little odd, and they also looked like maybe a like low res
Yeah.
versus like what they look like. I think they just upscaled the way that the character is, but typically you're kind of seeing them further away, so you're not noticing. But once it's kind of upscaled and they're talking, you kind of notice. You're like, oh, this looks a little different. And like just for example, like in college, like me and a buddy like made like this arcade game, and like we had the same issue happen. And it was just like, so it's just something that like I noticed like right away. I was just like, this reminds me of what I did in college, and I feel like they should have used maybe a little higher res characters, or maybe it's just something I noticed. I don't know. So that was the only thing that obviously it doesn't take away from the art. I think overall the world in the game looks great. The characters look great. The animations, everything in the hockey rink looks great. Really, just I think the art is a pretty strong point and reminds me a lot of Mario Party overall. I think Mario Party is a little bit more fine tuned just because it's Nintendo, but I think it's pretty close, to the Mario Party feel, which is like I think like a super high compliment, I would
Yeah.
say, for the game. Like to even be that close to something like Mario Party. So yeah, no, I think like overall I think the art was a pretty big strong point for the game. And I think that this game, like this would be something that like I would want my kid to play,
Yeah.
because I'd be like, they're gonna love this.
Mhm.
I don't have a kid, but if I did, I would want them to play it. But I'm not making an announcement here on the podcast or
What
anything
the
like
wait?
that. Yeah, he's 7 years old.
What?
But yeah, overall, yeah, I really did enjoy the art, so I agree with you on a lot of points there.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know, like it was good. I really enjoyed it, and the sound, I think,
Yeah,
actually really, I mean, well tuned. I thought that the music's great, makes sense, very fun, zany, silly, just exactly what you're expecting out of a game like this. Nothing that's going to take you out of it, at least for me. And then the sound effects, you know what's going on. Like there is a specific kind of sound effect for each power up, and I love that. And like it feels like you hear it, like even when it's like not close to you, you hear it like, oh, it's happening somewhere else on the rink. Like, oh no, like maybe my
yeah.
teammates getting like messed up by the tornado that I forget the name of the
Helmwing,
Helmling,
Helmwing.
Helmling, yeah, yeah,
Yep,
Helmling.
yep,
And
yeah. My favorite character personally.
I'm a Brazier guy personally,
Oh,
so
all
you
right,
know,
yeah.
I mean, whatever. But yeah, and I think that I enjoyed it. It's nothing that I don't think warrants a lot of talk because I think it just fits in, right? It's just like this is it, and it makes sense, and I'm not upset by it. I'm not offended by these noises coming into my earmuffs here, but I don't know. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, agreed. The music's a lot of fun. It just it's like Mario Party esque kind of music, and the sound effects are exactly what you expect. Even when I was playing a bit downstairs on like the TV, and when you do like the power shot, after you do it, it's
Oh
like
yeah.
or whatever it does. It does some like
Yeah.
like sound and
The charge. The charge.
yeah, the charge. Yeah, and every time that would happen, I would hear Maria in the kitchen like say the noise. Like she'd hear it, she'd be like, "Nah, nah, nah, nah." I'm like, oh, okay. So like the sound design is good because if that's happening, then that means like it's catchy. You're like looking forward to doing it. So like, that's like just like these great little things in the game in terms of sound effects that really make a big difference. Like even just like thinking about like Helldivers. I know like or you mentioned it earlier of like every time that I'm like diving down in Helldivers, there's like a certain like track that plays, and like me and like our buddy Pat, like we'll just always be like, we'll just hum along to it because it's just something that's like stuck in our head. So like that's something else that like happens with this game with like certain things that I just just to me that means like pretty good sound design when you have a noise that's like stuck in your head from playing a game. As long as it's a good noise, but it's not something like what we dealt
The
with. Like,
vuvuzelas out of Chesarama.
or that, yeah. But yeah, overall, the sound design was great. Exactly what you kind of expect. Not like a soundtrack that I would like get on Spotify, anything like that, but like, for a game like this, you just want it to be entertaining music while you're playing hockey, and that's exactly what it is. But yeah, as far as performance goes though, how did it run for you?
It ran fine. I know I'm on their Discord, and I know that they're actively working on some like online matchmaking stuff and things like that. But when I played online, it played pretty like almost seamlessly. I mean, I don't even think I noticed anything. No real performance issues that I noticed in my time playing. But it seems pretty polished. I mean, and back to their Discord, every update they've had for the past like 4 months has been, whoa, we're polishing. Sorry, more polishing this week. So like they certainly did it. So I'm assuming it would be the same for you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, everything ran well. There was like one or two times where it wasn't really like how the game was running. It was like, for example, I don't know, one of the boss fights where there's like a goalie. The goalie would like hold on to the puck, I think, for a little too long, and I kind of was like, oh my god, is it stuck? Like, am I never going to get the puck back? Do I need to restart the level? And then eventually it would like throw the puck back out. And so I'm like, okay, they must have some sort of, just a guess here because I'm not a game dev, but they must have some sort of like fail safe where like if the puck is like doesn't move for a certain amount of time, it just automatically like tosses it back up or something like that, which is great. Maybe that was part of their polishing that they did. They realized that like this could happen, and they put in like kind of a fail safe for it. So yeah, overall though, I mean the game ran really well. I played online matches as well, and no issues whatsoever. I mean it was indistinguishable from like if I played like locally with somebody. So yeah, no issues at all, which is great. Now there's not a lot of people, I'm taking a look at like their Steam charts right here. And obviously, the game is on Xbox and PlayStation as well, and going to be coming to Switch. So I imagine there'll probably be more players on those platforms because it's obvious it's like a very controller focused sort of game. But there's like an all-time peak of like 46 players right now. So obviously pretty small. Their servers aren't getting hammered, so I'm glad the online play is like working as intended. But if the game ever like started to take off a bit more, I'd be curious to see like how that affects the online play for a game like this. But yeah, overall, I mean, worked flawlessly for me. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's Goons, Legends and Mayhem. Time to give our final rating. Our ratings are as follows: certified fresh juice for the best games ever. A steal is the next level, like your A tiers. Get on sale. A game that's pretty good, but you maybe wait till it's on sale. C tier manager specials, like these. This is for, like genre lovers only, like style shoppers. They just like really like that, and it really doesn't resonate with us, but maybe the genre shopper is gonna like it. And then Spoiled Milk is a game that we recommend to nobody. I'll start with mine. I'm gonna give this a solid steal. Now, this is a sliding scale. I think I think that, I am personally not enjoying it as much right now because I can't sit on a couch and play it with my friends. I think this is perfect for that. When we first fell in love with this game at PAX, that was what we fell in love with. Just sitting down playing some goons, And
Yep.
I understand. I messaged the developers on their Discord. I was like, "Why no Switch?" When they did the announcement for the release date, and they're like, "We use an online thing for our puck movement, and to be honest, the Switch can't handle it, so we don't want to put out a product that's not up to par." And I understand that. Doesn't make me any less sad. I think this could be scaled up closer to a certified fresh juice once I am playing it on my couch. Now I know you can do that with Xbox and PlayStation. I don't have either of those. This is a totally selfish thing. But I will also say, I don't remember the last time I sat down and played Xbox with a lot of people at somebody else's house. It's always Switch. Switch is the way to go. So I understand it's the Switch's failure there, so I can't really count it against. But I will say my enjoyment of this game will scale up when I'm playing with people. I think the online is great. I'm hoping to play more with some juice heads in the Discord. That would be a lot of fun rather than people that are going to just slap me around like crazy. Although maybe the juice heads do it too. So I'm going to give this a solid steal. I think that these developers obviously have love for both hockey. That's very obvious. They love hockey. I know that they're from, I believe, Quebec. So that checks out. And that they love party Nintendo style games. So they really it oozes that stuff. So I think that this was a real triumph in that way that they did this. And if maybe they could change the campaign to be a little or change it so you can unlock stuff other ways. Or maybe we didn't even notice. I'm not sure. We only get so much time with these games. We'll be playing after, obviously. But at the time of recording, we don't know. But I think this game is a steal. I think people should play it. Get online, play. If you're playing on Xbox or PlayStation, play with your buddies. Play with your buddies online, too, as well. So I'm going to give it a solid steal.
Yeah. So from my point of view, I'm giving this, and this is also something that can improve in the future. Similar to what you're saying. I really think when the Switch version comes out, we're playing locally, just like the feeling at PAX, it'll go up. But I'm giving this an on sale. And the main reason for that, and I wrote down a little bit of notes here. I also have some recommendations as well, similar to what I did last week for Moto Night. But the real reason for that is because the story mode feels a little bit forced. I would love for them to really break out, even in the menus of just having story mode versus multiplayer, not versus, but, story mode and a multiplayer option so that you could go right into the multiplayer. You could find a match and you can go in and start playing. I do feel like maybe some people download this game and think that they're able to do that right away, because I feel like that's what a lot of the marketing for it is. And it seems like there's a lot of fun regular hockey stuff, a lot of fun mini game sort of stuff. But really, from what I know about it, is it seems to be mainly kind of hockey matches that you can play and then boss fights. It's not really mini games how I kind of thought it would be, similar to Mario Party. So I think for me, I know I already mentioned I was curious why the game was delayed a few times. I think it was because of the story mode. And the story mode, while it's pretty charming with some humorous dialogue, it feels a little forced for me. And a game like this should focus on the multiplayer aspect with a little bit of sprinkles of story thrown in. You should be able to earn all your characters through multiplayer. And I know for a game like this as well, it's tough to lean fully into the multiplayer side because maybe you're worried not enough people might play it, and then it will, if it's so focused on multiplayer, it'll eventually die off because not enough people are playing it. So I understand wanting to have a story aspect in the game, But I do think this is one of those games that needs to lean into the party side of things, where like you don't need to focus on the online play. People will play this game party mode style, similar to like what we're going to be doing with Astro Duel or what we've done with Plunder Panic or Boomerang Fu, right? Like where those games are successes to us because of the local play, the local multiplayer, not because of the online play for those games. So I think, this it's an on sale for me because I think, I was just trying to think of like how would I convince like some of my friends to pick this game up. I feel like $20 or even $16 is a lot to ask for a game where I'm going to have to ask them to play through the story mode to unlock what they need. So I'm thinking like $10 is maybe like where I would see like a 50% off sale where like they would probably like be more open to purchasing a game like this. So for me, yeah, I think, through some updates with this game, if they could separate out the multiplayer and the story mode a bit, and then just some recommendations of like for the multiplayer, for the online play specifically, having continuous lobbies. That's something, after you're done with a match, you get booted back out to the multiplayer. You have to find another match again. Let's have some continuous lobbies where like people can join in as a spectator if it's full and wait till someone leaves and like they can pop right in. I think that's a similar to like the way Rocket League works. Like there's been a lot of times where I've joined a Rocket League match and I have to wait for my spot to open up. But the match is already ongoing. Like in this game, you have to have, like, if you wanted to do a 2v2, you have to have all 4 people in the lobby and then you start the game. You can't start with just 3 and someone joins in later, at least from what I tested. And then also just like the story mode sort of stuff. Another recommendation is like for the world map, there's a few times where you have to go back to kind of the starting area because you have to go talk at Oily's garage. You have to talk to this guy about upgrading your vehicle. You have to drive all the way back in order to get there. There should be a button that maybe like teleports you back to that area, right? And then you can drive back to where you were. So I was just like, at a certain point, I was like, man, like I don't even know if I remember how to get back. And it's not like super complicated, but just like small quality of life stuff like that. So I think if they can improve on the stuff I mentioned and a little bit of quality of life improvements, like I could see this becoming a steal, and then I really think it'll move to like a certified fresh juice after like playing, we go out, hang out with the guys, and we play some local multiplayer and like just have a blast playing it. But as of right now, like if I'm thinking of someone that's purchasing this on Steam today, I'm giving this an on sale because it's just it was kind of treated a little bit differently than what I was thinking how it would be treated, if that makes any sense. So yeah, but a lot of potential though. This is like one of those on sales where I'm like, it's truly something that could be more than this. It's just the current state of it, I feel like, is an on sale for me. So yeah, long explanation, but that's how I'm feeling.
No, it's totally fair. And we've seen this with other games, right? Where, they're multiplayer and great as a really good experience. Like you can have a really good experience online, but the price tag keeps people away. Like, other games are doing this for free, unfortunately, because they have more backing or whatever, right? Like I think our cousin Danny Boy, Danny Tugboats. He's always shout out Danny Tugboats. He's always talking about like Kung Fu Kickball would have been a huge game if it was free. If it was free to play, right? Because then people would just pick it up and they'd play online and yada, yada, yada. As a matter of fact, I just saw him on Steam not too long ago just hop on and start playing online, actually.
Oh, there
yeah. So, yeah, Dan's still doing it, but, like, other people aren't because that's a $20 game, and this is kind of, like, in that similar realm. I'm still giving it a steal, but, like, I definitely think that I understand where you're coming from there, so, but Goons. We're done gooning now. Back to edging, folks.
Yep.
If you want to play this game with us in the Juicehead Discord, we are interested in doing that. That is for sure. Yep. So
absolutely.
Now we do have some listener questions. The first one comes from our loyal listener, Capolo, the Swiss Prophet. If you were to start the podcast a few years before, which game you have played you would have loved to have reviewed? Which games that you have played would you have loved to have reviewed? And which game that you've never played would you have liked to pick up to review?
This is a good one. So I know a game that I have. This is where this is all right. So a game I've never played that I would have liked to pick up and review is Hades.
Okay.
I've never played Hades. I have Hades. I have it on the Epic Game Store. It was free. I don't know why I've never played it. It's honestly a game that like I've had in the back of my mind lately of like you should just start this right now. So I have a feeling over the next few weeks I'm probably going to start Hades and just check it out because it's right up my alley. I don't know why I never played it. There must have been another game release that happened close to it, and I, just put Hades on the back burner. So that's definitely a game that I would like to pick up and review. As far as a game that like I've played, and I'm just trying to think of like indie games that I have played that like I never reviewed. Trying to think of one. I mean, maybe like Limbo would be a cool one. I played like Limbo when it first came out, and like I didn't really know. I think our buddy Bags like played it, and that was like the only person I knew that had played it. It was like on Xbox 360. I think I played it, so it would have been cool just to like talk about Limbo when it first came out. But that's a tough one though. I can't really think of like a game that maybe like Valheim even because I know I talked about Valheim being like one of my favorite indie games, and like I played the hell out of that when it came out. It would have been cool to talk about on the show, but I think for me like the more interesting one is like Hades, like because I don't know a lot about it. And I'm sure in one of these future episodes, like I said, I'll probably talk about it, that I started it and that, I'm really enjoying it. But what about you, Tom? What are you thinking for this one? This is a great question.
This is a great question. I would have said Hades, but since you said Hades, I played Hades. That would have been one that I would have liked to have reviewed. But I'm actually going to say Dredge is a game that I would have liked to have reviewed. A game that I have played. I've talked about. That's another one I've talked about a lot. Dredge is awesome. Please go check it out, folks.
Yeah,
it's going to be
played that at PAX for the first time.
Oh, you did?
When you were doing your Flesh and Blood tournament, I went over to the PC free play and they had Dredge on there.
Oh, how did you enjoy it?
I thought it was cool. I only played like 20 minutes of it, so I didn't get like super into it. But I was like, this. I was picturing like a totally different type of game. I was like, no, this is pretty dope. Yeah, this is awesome. So yeah, it's a cool game.
That is great game. So Dredge is one that I have played that I would have liked to have reviewed, and one that I've never played that I would like to have played and reviewed at the time is probably Darkest Dungeon. One of the Darkest Dungeons. It's one of those ones that's like still on my list. I gotta try it out. It like for whatever reason like the marketing gets me, and then I see a little bit of the gameplay and I'm like, I don't know if that's something I'm into, but maybe it is because I can't even really say like, cause I like turn-based stuff, obviously. I don't know if it's an auto battler at all because the part of it looks a little bit like Super Auto Pets or something like that, which I do enjoy that game as well. So, I don't know, but like, it's something that I would like to pick up at some point and play. Would have liked to have reviewed at the same time. And there's another one that I just bought that it was on sale on Steam, or not on Steam, on the Switch store, but Inscription. That's a deck builder that is also supposed to be one of the better deck builders out there. So I'm going to play that one. But thanks for the question, Cap. Appreciate it. Next comes from K-More, who asks, best video game movie adaptation.
Yeah, I kind of have two answers for this one because I feel like it's tough, right? I feel like we're in the era right now where like there's good TV show adaptations of video games, but there's never really been like a lot of great movie adaptations for games. I'm gonna say like right out of the gate, like Sonic, I feel like does a pretty good job of like capturing the essence of Sonic. It's like more of a kids movie, but I do think it Yeah, it's just a fun movie, at the end of the day, which is like what Sonic is. It's very lighthearted. It's not too in depth. And then this is like a video game related movie. It's not really like a video game that was turned into a movie, but Tetris on Apple TV, that's a pretty solid movie. Like
Yeah.
like I watched it with Maria, and we were pretty surprised at like how much we enjoyed that movie. So it's not, it's obviously video game related. But yeah, I don't know that movie. Who would have thought that Tetris went through so much just to be made? So really cool story there. But yeah, that would probably be my two main selections here. I was trying to look at a whole list of games that have been turned into movies, and like so many of them, I was like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, what are you thinking for this, Tom?
So I think the right answer is Sonic, right? But I'm trying to think of what I what I like enjoyed like in a oh this is fun and stupid and not very
Yeah.
good. I think it's probably Super Mario Bros. Not the new one, the original live action one.
Okay.
There's something weird about that movie that just makes me laugh. Like the Goombas, the Goombas
Yeah.
look so weird. They're like little lizard people. It's
Yeah.
not a good movie. It's not, but it's like campy and fun. So I kind of
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, Sonic's the right answer. Although I did like the
Yeah.
the new Super Mario Bros. Movie as
Yeah.
well. That was
Yeah. It
fun
was
as well.
good. Yeah.
Felt myself getting like teary eyed in the theater alone. Um, because I saw that one by myself. Just had some time off, and I was like, maybe I'll go see this movie. And I realized
There you
how
go.
weird I looked, and everybody was coming in the lone guy. Like, so
With
I
your
might
Dune popcorn bucket.
my dude. So yeah, it was a
Uh,
great time. Uh,
yeah.
and finally, R Carp 11 asks, a lot of brands use TikTok to promote their games. What do you think is the most effective marketing technique for indie games? Is it in-person completions like PAX? I think they meant conventions.
Yeah.
In-person conventions like PAX, holding a sale, social media. What makes you excited to play?
Yeah, this is definitely a great question as well. I think, I work in marketing for all the listeners. Like I've been working in marketing for like almost a decade at this point. But I obviously don't work for like an indie game studio or anything like that. So this is just like an educated guess. But I mean, I would say PAX is a big deal for indie games. I feel like there are so many games that we learn about at PAX that, like Astro Duel 2, for example. Never even heard of the first Astro Duel. Didn't even know it existed, right? I don't even know if they were ever even at a PAX because that was like a decade before Astro Duel 2. But being able to play that game at PAX, falling in love with that game, coming home, buying it, we stayed up till 3 a.m. playing it. Like that just doesn't happen really when I feel like you use other marketing techniques, whether you see an ad on TikTok or you see, you know, that there's a sale on a game. Yeah, you might buy it, but you're probably not going to be up playing with your friends, until like the middle of the night because it just doesn't feel as special, I guess you could say. I do think like there are certain ways to promote your game. Like I know holding a sale on Steam, if it's like more, I don't know, more than 20%, I think off, it notifies everybody who has that game wish listed. So there's like little clever things you can do like that that'll promote your game. But I just think like Steam and TikTok and social media in general is so saturated that the only way you're really going to stand out is like if you have a game like Screenbound, right? That's like it looks so unique, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or a game like Mouse where it's like that first person shooter but it looks like old school Mickey Mouse. Like it's gotta have a unique art style almost in a way to really capture people's attention. But I feel like if it's at PAX, people are more willing, or at any convention, people are more willing to like give your game a try, even if it looks like another game. So I think that's a really powerful way to do it. It's probably the most expensive way to promote your game is to go to a convention like that. But I think that you probably get the best feedback and the most interest when you have it at a convention. But what do you think, Tom, about this? This is another great question.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I feel like I think a lot of these ways are great. Like conventions are great, obviously for folks like us. But I think the reality is there's probably so many people that don't even like never even step foot in a convention that still like game a lot. And I think that indie games, the best indie games I've played, have been word of mouth, right? I everybody talking about Slay the Spire. Eventually, I played it, and I was like, okay, this is great. This is the best thing I've ever played. And then there, actually on Sunday, I was at the Flesh and Blood tournament. The judge there, he was like, Tommy, I feel like you started the Flesh and Blood being obsessed with Balatro trend, which I don't think I did. But like,
you did.
He was
Take
like,
the credit.
Well, no, he was like, I didn't hear about that game till you tweeted about it, and I was just like, oh, cool. And then it was like, now I'm obsessed too. So like the word of mouth is really powerful, right? You just you tell somebody about it, and then they're like, oh wow, that does sound kind of cool. And then if someone's really obsessed with it, they'll say it again. And I've mentioned, I say Balatro all the time. I say Boomerang Fu all the time. Astro Duel 2, stuff like that. So like, I mean, the amount of times like Dan and I would say Kung Fu Kickball. Now that's not a game that has caught on, but I'm just saying talking about a game is good, and I think it's probably the best. So that is a great question though.
And also, just something else I thought of is like now the Triple I showcase is probably. I mean, that's a really powerful way. We've learned about a bunch of games this week, as did like thousands of people. So I think I don't know how much it is to even be part of that, or even if you have to pay. I have no idea, but I think that's kind of a new way to promote your indie games now. So hopefully the indie devs, are. I'm hoping it's like a longer show next time. I'd love like a 2-hour like Triple I showcase. Just like one after the other. Like let's go. Let's give me like 100 games. Really great question, and totally agree with like the word of mouth. I mean, so much of my Steam library is word of mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even like whether it's like a Twitch stream I'm watching and someone just casually mentions like, oh, I've been playing a lot of this. I'll be like, oh, I'll like look it up and I'll be like, oh, this is right up my alley. I'll add it to the wish list. So
streams are huge. Streams are very huge, especially big streamers. Now, like, it's a little weird when they're playing like they're a sponsored one, like, when it's like an ad. But like if a streamer's enjoying it and the viewers are liking it, all of a sudden, I mean, that's just another form of word of mouth, I guess. So
definitely. Yeah, there's been like sponsored streams I've watched where like they're sponsored for the first hour, and then they're enjoying the game so much they're like, hey, the sponsor segment's over, but we're gonna keep playing this for the rest of the stream because I'm just enjoying it. And then that's usually an indication that I'm like, all right, I gotta check this game out. So hopefully any indie devs listening, we'll promote your game. I think the Fresh Juice podcast is the best way to promote your indie game. That's the right answer right there.
There are no wrong answers, but there is one right answer, folks. Now, that's going to do it for the show, except we have to visit the rec room before we leave, where we recommend something that perhaps isn't an indie game. And what do you have to recommend this week?
Yeah, so Maria and I started watching, which is the talk of the town right now, is Fallout, the new show from Amazon based on the game Fallout. We're about 3 episodes in, and each episode's like an hour or so long. And it's been fantastic so far. It's been way better than I thought it would be, especially coming from like Amazon. It feels like a video game. A lot of people are saying that this show and The Last of Us are like the best video game adaptations that we've had, which I love The Last of Us. But what I will say about Fallout is it feels like you're watching a video game. It's just, it's got Walter Goggins in it, who is like, he's awesome. Baby Billy.
Billy, yeah. He's in Vice Principals. I mean, he is. Yeah. He's the best.
He's great. And it's been a lot of fun to watch. And I don't really know Fallout that well. I haven't really played a lot of the games, so like I don't know what's coming next. I don't know if it's following the story of the games. I have no idea, or if its own story, whatever it is. But definitely recommend checking out Fallout on Amazon. If you're into if you like The Last of Us, I would say definitely check out Fallout. And it's been a lot of fun. So I'm excited to finish that up. I think it's 8 episodes total, but
Awesome.
we're 3 in. So yeah.
Yeah, hearing a lot of good things. I saw that the main guy from Bethesda, because that's the Bethesda game, right?
Yeah,
He was like
Todd
surprised
Howard.
they got like a 9 because like they like a lot of his games have not been getting good reviews lately.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I kept seeing
Yeah.
that TikTok. Now, my recommendation is a board game called Veiled Fate. I think I mentioned this to you, Matt, off air.
Yeah.
But it is a social deduction like strategy game. So basically, it plays very well as a party game. I've only played 2 players so far with my fiance, but I will say it is even a ton of fun there. So basically, you're set up like this. It happens over 3 stages or 3 ages, they call them, and each age has some kind of thing that happens. But the main premise of the game is there are 9 demigods on the board, right? And you are dealt out a demigod at the beginning of the game. You don't share it with anyone. You know which one you are, and you don't know what anybody else is. And you can move during your turn. You can move any of the demigods anywhere on the board. And you can move them to a place that's advantageous or disadvantageous. And basically, you can try to lead people down a trail to think that this other demigod is you, but it's not. And they start attacking that one to make sure it doesn't win the game. And then you sneak around and place your actual one in a position where you can win the game. So it's this really cool, like, you start looking at each other like, all right, which color, which one are you? You know, and then you're just like, and there's a really cool thing, like there's these missions where you place these demigods. Once the missions fill up, it has a certain amount of slots on it. There's 2 different outcomes that can come out of it, a negative outcome or a positive outcome. And whenever you place a demigod on the mission, you put a voting card like face down, negative or positive. But they don't know what you put down. And then once it fills up, everybody that put down their card, they shuffle it up and reveal the vote. Whatever vote wins, the positive or negative thing happens. So you have to deduce who was voting positive, who was voting negative in that one. It's like,
Interesting.
it's so much fun. Like it's actually, you know, I'm going pretty deep on it, but like it's pretty simple. Like once you get in through the first like turn, you're like, oh, I get it. And it's like a party game for people who don't love party games. They like more real board games. So like it's a blast. I definitely recommend it. It's by Ivy Studios. They have another board game which is like an absolute banger called Moonrakers. That's like their claim to fame. But I really like this one. I'm excited to play with more people than just 2. So
Yeah. No. Sounds awesome. How did you find out about this one? Just because you've played Moonrakers, obviously. So
yeah, I
was it
played
through that.
So I played Moonrakers. I did a Kickstarter for Moonrakers like expansion slots or sets or whatever to add to the game, and I finally got them in the mail a year later. But like I had moved at the time, so there were some issues with my shipping address, whatever. Neither here nor there. And inside it had like a sheet of their other games. I'd heard of one other one, and then I saw that one. I was reading about it. I was like, that sounds pretty awesome. I'm just gonna order it, and I don't regret it. And I'm recommending it on the Rec Room. Fresh
There
Juice,
it is.
episode 29,
Sweet.
coming to a close. Where can people find you, Maddie?
Yeah, if you want to find me outside the show at Matty Gorm, Gorm, on all the socials. Been playing a lot of Once Human, making a lot of videos on YouTube. It's been doing really well. Been really happy with it. And it's been a lot of fun playing. So if you're interested, it's also an indie game. It's a survival MMO. And if you're interested in any of that stuff, check me out on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, what about you, Tommy? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at FreshBudsPod. I have another podcast called Fresh and Buds, where I talk about the game Flesh and Blood. You can find us on all the other socials. I don't know if you mentioned that already. I was getting a text.
I did not.
Fresh Juice Pod on everything. Check it out. Like, comment, subscribe. It all really helps. This is the best way you can support us for like that's like $0. And that's a really cool way to support us. So check it all out. Next week, we got a fun one. That's going to be in early access. We're not going to tell you what, though. You have to guess. So,
It's the big one.
Fresh, you juice heads.